are not new thoughts. I know they call it New Age, but these are not
Sure.
new.
Absolutely. And yeah, New Age is actually kind of old age.
Yeah. So as you pointed out, that Gnosticism, okay, maybe it wasn't in year 50, but it certainly wasn't in year 500, right? I mean,
Right.
it goes back to near the beginning.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to share with you a couple of a few more characteristics. Again, if you see something that gets your attention and you want to comment on in real time, get my attention and feel free to speak. And if not, I'll just ask you for anything else you want to comment on after we go through a couple more things here. So here are some of the characteristics of New Age movement. One is that it is fundamentally reactionary. It is a resistance movement against modernity. It's a resistance movement against the complexity of life. It is basically just pushing against. It is a reaction against, in all honesty, and this is something that is salient to us, a lot of times it's a reaction against lives that do not match what the teaching professes. Something to remember. There is a hunger to experience mystery. There is a hunger to experience awe, wonder. It's reactionary against rationalism, and an idea of getting back to Eastern religion. Self-centered and self-serving. It's got to work for you to be legitimate. Now, if you hear the word relevant, don't just skip past that, okay? Self-centered and self-serving, it has to work for you to be legitimate. It's about my peace, it's about my feelings. Ultimately, I will find harmony through self-fulfillment, whether it's Maslow's hierarchy or whatever it may be. That's where I'll find the ultimate fulfillment. So not only is it if it feels good, do it, it's if it feels good to you, believe it. So it takes on a little different nuance there. Now, of course, if your whole life you have held on to Jesus saying, if someone will come after me, he must deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever wishes to lose his life will find it. You see here the contrast. New Age does not really take the idea of evil and sin seriously. The problem is not sin, the problem is ignorance. If you just knew better, you would do better. I was on a class with Rita yesterday, who works in recovery ministry, and the minute she heard that, she was ready to jump in. The idea, if I just knew better, I could do better. Ask anyone who's been suffering with some type of addiction for years, you would find a counter narrative there. There's a little bit of a Buddhistic influence here. Of course, this has dangerous connotations, because I don't know about you, but I don't think Hitler just needed a little better education. I don't think Mussolini just needed a little better education. Jesus did not just wink at human suffering. Jesus died because of it. I'll tell you what else can flourish in this environment is a form of racism, because the very tenet of racism is to look at other people through the filter of you being the standard, and you being the standard of supremacy and someone else being not quite where you are. So racism can flourish very much in this environment. It is quite deceptive. It's quite seductive. When you think about, if you focus on spirituality, on community, on creativity, on harmony, most people aren't going to be against those things. I wouldn't be against most of those things. The problem is trying to do and achieve all of these things without Jesus being at the center of them. New Age as instead encourages to break free from any institution, because the likelihood is whatever institution it is going to be corrupt. This movement especially, and this is from Micah Owens, this movement especially attracts those who are starving for authentic spirituality that is both intensely personal and significantly communal. Paul says the Christian life is more than a go-it-alone experience. The Christian life is deeply personal while simultaneously woven into community. We call that the community of the church. Here's the drawing line. The allure of a deeper spirituality without community accountability is hard to resist. The New Age movement says you can find an ultimate spiritual experience. You can find the community without having any accountability. The New Testament says otherwise. All right, I've rambled for a while. David, what you got?
So if you think about it, one of the common themes here is this leads to I am God.
Right.
Right? And that is the ultimate trapdoor.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mary.
You know, when you were talking, it made me think about the song "Be With Me, Lord," and so I love that song because, in other words, I need God because I can't do anything, take one step alone without God with me, and because I'm speaking for myself, because that second one said self-serving and self. What is the first one? It's self. Anyway. To me, when I'm thinking about myself, I think about being self-destructive. And when I'm serving, and they had this conversation in the gazebo yesterday about when we're serving others and praying for other people. And one lady said, I love the way she said it. She said, when you're praying for somebody else, God will bless you. She said, God is a multiplier. I had never heard that phrase before. But when you're taking your mind off yourself and you're praying for someone else, how God blesses you even when you're praying for someone else. So my issue is to always do something to take my mind off myself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You see, that's about as much of a striking contrast as you could draw. Great. Thank you, Mary. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, I think the other thing that kind of strikes me is all of these are inward looking. There's nothing outward servant. There's nothing outward bound. I've got to be concerned about myself. Then I can do what I want. But it's all inward serving. There's no outward community or society.
Good point. Good point. Dave.
Yeah, and all of these various threads, they tend to appeal to the rebel without a cause that we all have some amount of, right? And it basically tries to prey on the concept that the institutions and God and Jesus and all these things, they're really out to trap you. You need to be your own man or your own woman or whatever, okay? So it really, really plays to that whole concept of rebel without a cause.
Sure. Sure. All right. I want to show you one more thing for tonight, and then I'll tell you where we're going to go next. This is a test that I shared it with young folks way back in the day, but I think this can be a great blessing just to kind of center our thoughts. Whenever a new idea comes across our plate, does this idea suggest something needs to be added to what Christ has done? If there's a suggestion that something needs to be added to what Christ has done, I need to be very, very careful of that. Does this idea in any way diminish what Christ has done? If the idea in any way diminishes what Christ has done, I need to be very, very careful. And then finally, does this idea exalt Jesus Christ as Lord? If it exalts Jesus Christ alone as Lord, then I'm going to want to perk up and to kind of lean in. And use that. You're going to get these slides for tonight, and hopefully they will be a blessing to you. But let me finish by briefly telling you what I want to do all this. Being against postmodernism or being against New Age is kind of like being against a microwave. It's there, you got to deal with it. It's in the culture, it's there. So there's a response on our part that's needed. And rather than just close in ranks and close the doors of the building and say, all you people outside of our building are crazy because you're buying all this stuff, you got to figure out how to engage in a world that you don't go into this type of culture and hold up your Bible at first, because it's like, I got my own, you got your Bible, I got my story. So that being said, there is a way to engage. There are some priorities in postmodernism of one thing over another we're going to talk about next week that are almost identical to what Paul runs into on Mars Hill. So next week we're going to take a little side trip. We're going to read Colossians 2 verse 8 again, but then we're going to Acts 17. And if you'll be reading ahead, what I want you to be looking for is, how did Paul deal with addressing a group of people who in the middle of their town actually had a statue to an unknown God? And I believe that through this process, we're going to find some commonalities to 2020 that I think we'll find to be very instructive as we try to reach beyond our walls. Okay? So that's where we're headed. All right, any final comments, questions? Dan, I ended up quitting early instead of late. It's 15-1. They're beyond help tonight.
You having trouble hearing me?
Yes, Mary, we continue to have some issues there, and I'm not really sure what we're going to be able to do, but we'll see what we can figure out. Okay.
Because I'm having trouble at times hearing you guys.
Mary,
So I'm not sure what the deal is.
Mary, you're on your cell phone, right?
No, I'm on a tablet.
Okay, same thing. If you have ear